We've taken hundreds of train rides all over the world, and honestly, trains are our favorite way to travel, especially in Europe and Asia. But here in the US, we've ridden plenty of Amtrak too. From the Floridian to the Acela, the Texas Eagle, the Southwest Chief, and lots of trips up and down the Northeast Corridor, including the Empire Service. We've also even taken the auto train from DC to Orlando.
What we've learned in all of those trips is that Amtrak disappointments happen because of poor planning and people expecting the wrong things. Today, we're sharing the tips we wish every first-time rider knew so your trip feels like an adventure, not a disaster. So let's go.
We're John and Beth, and we are the Retirement Travelers. If you're just finding us, we are an American senior travel couple who are on the adventure of our lives. So hit subscribe and follow along on our little travel log. We are a few weeks ahead of our videos, so if you're wondering where we are in the world, we keep our Instagram updated to our current location, so follow us there.
Our most recent Amtrak trip from DC to LA went down in the books as a disaster.
Very big disaster.
At least from our perspective. You know, in that video, we shared that our bedroom wasn't cleaned, the private bathroom we had paid for was unusable, and we left the trip feeling really disappointed.
A lot of you chimed in to say our expectations may have been too high and that we were crazy to spend that kind of money in the first place. Now, we're not going to rehash it all here. We'll link the video below if you want the full story.
But today, we want to turn that experience into something helpful. So we're sharing many tips and first-timer warnings to help you understand how Amtrak really works and hopefully have a much better trip than we did.
Booking Amtrak is not like booking a flight. Prices change based on demand, but not always in predictable ways. Sometimes fares go up as the train fills, and sometimes they drop closer to departure. If you see a price you're comfortable with, it's often best to book it, especially for sleeper rooms, which sell out quickly on popular routes. Also, pay attention to the fare type you're choosing. Some tickets are more flexible than others, and that matters if your plans might change.
Also, understand the cancellation rules before you click purchase. Amtrak does allow cancellations, but the refund you receive depends on how far in advance you cancel and what kind of tickets you bought. Closer to departure, you may only receive an e-voucher instead of a refund to your credit card. E-vouchers are usable for future travel, but they do have expiration dates. If you don't use them in time, that money can disappear. So if your plans change, don't wait. Cancel as early as possible.
For sleeper accommodations, cancellation policies can be stricter and fees can apply if you cancel close to your departure. Always double check the rules for your specific ticket before booking, especially for long-distance routes where prices are higher.
So let's talk about the riding. Rule number 1 of Amtrak, trains run late. Now, this isn't Europe, and it's definitely not China, where the trains run down to the second. Here in the US, passenger trains don't have their own dedicated tracks. Amtrak shares the rails with freight trains, and freight gets priority. That means Amtrak has very little control over its own schedule. You know, they try, but delays are simply part of the system.
Now, what that means for you is simple. Plan for every train to be delayed, especially the overnight ones. Don't book tight connections, same-day flights for onward travel, cruise departures on the day you arrive, or rigid hotel check-ins at your destination. Delays aren't rare. It's very common to have a delayed arrival, and that can mean several hours depending on the route. If everything lines up perfectly and you arrive on time, consider it a bonus.
And don't expect luxury, even if the price tag feels luxurious. We paid what felt like an eye-watering amount of money for a bedroom from Washington, D.C. to L.A., and we assumed that that price meant decent bedding, clean facilities, attentive service, just the basics done well. When that didn't happen, we were deeply disappointed.
But what we heard loud and clear from viewers is that our expectations didn't match the experience they had on Amtrak, and we shouldn't have expected otherwise. It's true that this is an aging system with older equipment and inconsistent service. We were never expecting perfection. People assumed that we were, but we were expecting great service and we didn't get it. If you go in expecting an adventure, and what we mean by that is that you're expecting things to go wrong and you're willing to accept that as part of the ride, you likely will enjoy it. Our disappointment probably had more to do with the overall price we paid and feeling that we hadn't signed up for that said adventure. We learned the hard way that even basic doesn't always come standard, and that's unfortunate.
Pre-plan your entertainment. Most people choose train travel because they want it to be slower, and we're in that camp too. We'd rather watch the country roll by than to sit in an airport. But being on a train all day or for several days can create a problem if you don't come prepared with how you're going to pass the time.
The biggest challenge most people face is boredom. Yes, we are perfectly happy to see the farmland and the beautiful landscape. It's what we love about travel, but we also have a pretty common addiction to technology. You might think that every train has good Wi-Fi or even some Wi-Fi, but that is not the case. For much of our route through the Southwest, we were without cell service, so combined, we had many dead zones.
Our advice is to download any movies, podcasts, books, or maps before you leave home. Staying connected is important to us. We were very surprised that more Wi-Fi wasn't available, but it just wasn't.
Sleeper tickets include meals. Coach does not. If you're traveling in coach, you'll need to pay for food if you plan to eat on board. Sometimes coach passengers are invited to buy a meal in the dining car if space allows. The train will make an announcement, and it's first come, first served. Prices are typically around $20 for breakfast, $25 for lunch, and $45 for dinner. It's a nice option when available, but don't count on it.
The more dependable option is the cafe car. Now this is grab-and-go style, like burgers, sandwiches, and snacks. The choices are limited, but it's there. What many people don't realize until they board is that Amtrak allows you to bring your own food on. We've seen people board with pizzas, Chick-fil-A, and full takeout meals, and honestly, it always looks amazing compared to the cafe food. So plan on that first meal being a brown bag unless you plan to dine in the dining car or you don't mind a burger in the cafe car.
We'd also suggest you bring some snacks to enjoy between meals. Some stations have small snack shops where you can buy, snacks before you board, but prices tend to be much higher. It's better to stock up before you arrive at the station.
If you're in a sleeper, dinner reservations can be made at check-in or once on board when the attendant comes through. Earlier times go quickly. On one trip, all the early dinner slots were gone before we even boarded. So yes, sometimes the early bird really does get the worm.
You can also request room service or have your meal brought to your room. Some people prefer this to dining with strangers. Now, we actually enjoy meeting people in the dining car, but not everyone loves shared seating, and private tables usually aren't an option. You will be sharing a table with another couple most times. We've met some really lovely people doing this, and it's one of the things that we look forward to.
As far as food quality, we think the food is pretty good. It certainly feels like something special, with white tablecloths and table settings we'd expect in a dining car. On some of our trips, the kitchen ran out of choices on the menu, and we've come to know that this is really not that unusual.
John asked for a simple substitution once, and it wasn't allowed. It's one of those ask but don't expect situations. We think this is a big marketing mistake to not be more accommodating, but it's Amtrak and change is hard. We've come to learn.
That said, not everyone is grumpy. We've had wonderful attendants too. On one trip, a kind attendant brought us extra soda outside of the mealtime just because we were in a sleeper car, and we tipped her for that kindness. Now, there are great people working on board. When you find them, it makes a big difference. So look for them and they will treat you well. Our favorite crew is definitely the auto train to Florida. We wish everyone had the attitude that they did.
Let me tell you about my very first Amtrak experience because it wasn't so great. It was on the Texas Eagle. I boarded at a station with no attendant and no services. There was no one directing passengers, and I had 2 small children with me at the time. It was stressful just figuring out where to stand and if I was doing everything correctly. When we reached our destination, things didn't get easier. We were let off the train far from the actual platform and had to walk across gravel in the middle of the night with a baby, a stroller, a suitcase, and a car seat. It was dark, unfamiliar, and honestly a little unnerving. So here's the big takeaway. Know what you're walking into before you arrive. Outside of the Northeast Corridor, many stations only have 1 train a day in each direction. That means your arrival and departure could be in the middle of the night. For me, I was traveling to Little Rock, and we stopped around 3 a.m. in the morning. Southbound stops at 4 a.m. Now, that's not the time to be figuring things out for the first time, so Google your stop if you're getting off somewhere unfamiliar.
Also, not all stations are staffed, and some don't have buildings open overnight. You need to know in advance whether there will be restrooms, seating, or staff. And yes, some stations are in areas that feel isolated at night, like Little Rock. So plan your pickup and drop off carefully.
Security is different from airports. Your bags usually are not scanned and there's no TSA style line. But that doesn't mean you should roll in at the last second. Give yourself time to check in, organize your bags, and get oriented. If you need wheelchair assistance, Amtrak can help. Attendants are available to assist passengers on and off the train.
Once on board, keep your ticket handy. You'll show it more than once, especially when crews change along the route. We always screenshot our ticket so the QR code is easy to pull up from the photos, even if cell service drops. We use this trick no matter what train we're on and no matter what the country is.
Pay attention during station stops. Sometimes the crew will announce a quick stop where no one is allowed off. Other times they'll invite passengers to stretch their legs. On one trip through New Mexico, we even had time to walk downtown for an hour. But you must listen carefully. Trains will not wait on you if you wander off too far.
Our biggest packing advice for train travel is simple. Pack light. You won't have space to fully open up a large suitcase, so it's much easier to work out a small overnight style bag. In coach, luggage storage is limited, and even in the sleeper cars, there's not much room for oversized bags. You should be prepared to lift your own luggage on board. There isn't staff helping everyone board unless you've arranged mobility assistance ahead of time.
Now, if you're in coach, keep your essentials in a small bag that fits under your seat. That's where you'll want your charger, snacks, medications, and anything you might need overnight. While many seats have outlets, they're not always exactly where you expect, so a larger, longer charging cord can really help.
Slip-on shoes are another small thing that make a big difference. You'll likely be getting up during the night, and the last thing you want to do is deal with laces every time you head to the restroom.
We also want to recommend that everyone, even in sleeper cars, bring an eye mask and some form of ear protection to block out the noise. Trains are noisy, and the sleeper cars aren't as dark as you might expect. In roomettes, there are curtains over the hall windows, but they're thin, and the hallway lights can be surprisingly bright.
The onboard bathrooms usually have soap and paper products, but hand sanitizer is still a good idea. If you're traveling in coach, there is no showers, so wet wipes or a small washcloth could help you freshen up. If you're in a roomette, you'll have access to a shared shower room, and towels, soap, and shampoo are provided.
Even though you're assigned a seat, you're not expected to stay there the whole time. One of the great things about train travel is the freedom to get up, walk around, and explore different cars.
If your train has a scenic or an observation lounge, go early, before the mountains appear or the beautiful coastline comes into view. Those window-facing seats fill up fast, and once they're taken, you might miss the best views of the trip. We've also found that the people hanging out in the lounge car tend to be friendly and very open to conversation, so it's a fun place to relax, enjoy the scenery, and maybe make a new friend or two.
One of the best tips we've seen is this route map, which shows the routes and where nighttime falls. Obviously, half of your route could be in the dark on long-distance trains, so manage your expectations for seeing every state you pass through. Traveling through a scenic area at night is very disappointing. If you are traveling in the winter, days are much shorter and your route is mostly in the dark. So our opinion is the best time for long distance routes is in the summer. You will just see more.
One of the biggest disappointments on Amtrak, and honestly on trains around the world, is the windows. They can get pretty dirty, which can affect the photos you're hoping to take. It's just part of the reality of long distance train travel. So it helps to know this going in and manage your expectations a bit.
Another thing to be prepared for is the constant announcements. You do need to listen to them because they often include important information about upcoming stops, meal service, or fresh air breaks. But they can be surprisingly hard to understand as the train rattles along at speed.
They also don't always happen at convenient times. Just when you finally drift off to sleep, an announcement might come through the speaker system. It's part of train travel, but it can definitely interrupt your rest. So be ready for that.
Amtrak does have a loyalty program called Amtrak Guest Rewards. And if you ride even occasionally, it's worth joining. It's free. You earn points based on how much you spend, not how far you travel. Now, those points can be used toward future tickets, upgrades, and sometimes sleeper accommodations. On long-distance trips, you can earn a meaningful number of points, especially if you book a room.
Amtrak also occasionally runs promotions where you can earn bonus points on certain routes or during specific time periods. If you're planning a big trip, it's worth checking if a promo is running. One thing to know is that point redemptions don't always feel like that amazing value compared to airline miles, but they can still take the edge off the cost of future trips, and every little bit helps.
Let's talk about the different classes, starting with coach. Coach seats on Amtrak are actually quite roomy, and in many ways they're more comfortable than flying. You get more legroom and a deeper recline, but what you don't get are the extras. Blankets and pillows are not provided in coach, so if you're traveling overnight, bring your own.
We've seen some experienced riders bring a large blanket to drape over their seat area, both to block the light and create a little sense of privacy. It's a smart move, but remember, coach is a shared space. Kids will be running up and down the aisle, people will be talking, and the occasional snorer are all part of the experience.
Dress in layers, no matter what class you're in. Train temperatures can be unpredictable. One car might feel chilly while another feels warm. Having a light jacket or a sweater within reach can make a big difference in your comfort.
We've traveled in both a roomette and a bedroom on Amtrak. Our first overnight experience was in a roomette. We pictured this cozy little cabin, and in many ways, that's exactly what it was. The challenge came at bedtime.
Climbing into the upper bunk in a roomette can be very difficult, especially as we get older. It requires flexibility and balance, and if either of you has trouble climbing or twisting, it can feel more like a gymnastics move than a bedtime routine. On top of that, the upper bunk mattress is extremely firm and not a luxury kind of firm way.
No, the lower bunk is much more comfortable, but it's designed for one person. Two adults trying to share it is very tight. If your budget allows, a common workaround is booking 2 roomettes across from each other so each person gets a lower bunk. We've learned that many experienced train travelers use this strategy for longer trips.
When we later booked a bedroom, we hoped the sleeping setup would be easier. Unfortunately, the upper bunk there was still very firm and still required climbing. I tried squeezing into the lower bunk with John, but it just wasn't comfortable for either of us.
Roomettes have access to shared restrooms and a shower room, which we found to be perfectly workable. Bedrooms come with a private toilet and sink, which sounds like a big upgrade.
On the sleeper train we took, we had access to a private bathroom, but on our trip, the commode was full of urine and we were unable to flush it. It was horrible. If you want to see that story, watch this next.